Hey guys, it is Bay Area Toga checking in from the track this time. We are specifically at Thunderhill West in California, and it was my first experience driving at a track. Now, I know I haven't uploaded in a while. Unfortunately, that's because I got busy with a variety of things. I know a lot of you can relate with wanting to do your favorite thing, such as driving, editing, filming, but just not having the time, money, or energy. That happened for a little while, but I'm really excited to come back with a good video here. This is the first time I was ever on a track. I got invited by my friends, and it was honestly one of the best experiences I've ever had. I don't think I've had more fun ever in my life. What made it even better, beyond having all my car friends there, was also driving with my brother and also bringing my girlfriend, who sat as passenger and was extremely helpful in giving me the each corner to help me sort of get a nice layout of the track at first. And by her doing that, it accelerated my understanding of the track. So big shout out to her for supporting it that way. Overall, the track was definitely much bigger than what I was used to driving at. I mean, driving in a double lane back road, your space is limited, especially in my style of driving, where I enjoy using just one lane for safety purposes. And that's by doing that, you have no real ability to explore a specific line while driving. So Apex, while I knew it theoretically, was a foreign concept in terms of actually implementing. But I definitely had the chance to do so here. As you can see, beyond a few straights, it's mainly corners with enough road or track rather, where picking your specific line is extremely necessary. Overall though, despite that being kind of a new thing, I found myself kind of naturally adapting to a nice line that worked for me, for the track, and for my car. Now I'm sure that, with extra visits and more seat time, you can really perfect this line. I wasn't extremely focused on track times. I found preparing simply for just the regular day without even thinking about track time difficult at times, because despite the fact that there was plenty of time between each session, after you have checked your tire pressures and torqued your lug nuts and found somewhere to park and all the tools and things that you bring, find a spot for those, then you end up kind of running out of time, especially when taking into consideration the fact that you do these driver education meetings with the staff there at Thunderhill, and that takes up a little bit of time as well. So having the time as a beginner to prepare for not only your car, but also your equipment, your camera gear, and your Garmin or whatever other track timer that you use, that ended up being a bit of a challenge. Thankfully, I was able to set up the cameras to get you guys a little bit of video. The event was hosted by Turn 8 Racing, which I enjoyed a lot as an organization. They were very knowledgeable about, the track. They prepared us thoroughly. The only issue that I personally had, and as you can see here, is that I joined the beginner group, given that I had no prior track experience. But the beginner group is called beginner for a reason. If there's nothing wrong with joining the beginner group, in fact, I think it was beneficial for me in the end. But if you have a bit more comfort with your own car and are a little bit more comfortable with, car dynamics and racing theory and such, you find yourself in a place where maybe you're not advanced or intermediate, but you definitely are not a beginner. And what would happen with me here is I would get stuck behind instructional groups where one car would lead a pack of beginners through the track in order for them to learn the most ideal line. And while that was great and educational, and for a little while helpful to me as well by following the crowd, it soon became a bit annoying, because when you finally feel more comfortable to push your limits a little farther, let's say you're somewhere in between a beginner and an intermediate, you end up getting stuck behind beginner groups and you have to go at their pace. But overall that wasn't as much of a deal, and you're still able to have plenty of fun despite being underclassed in beginner group. When I found it to be a little bit too annoying to be stuck behind traffic, I would exit at the pits, and staff there were very helpful in allowing me to sort of hold off, like stay there for just a second until they were able to find us more space. And a lot of people utilized that tactic, and it was really nice for the staff there at Turn 8 Racing to provide that as a possibility, because then at least for a few laps until you catch up to traffic, you can go at a more appropriate pace to your skill level. Another thing that I noticed is that with beginners, they tend to not work on allowing you to pass. As you can see, some people did, but their point buys were not always utilized. I mean, sometimes I would be on someone's tail and I would want to make a move to try to see where my personal limits were, but they just would not be aware that I was on their tail. And so that ended up being another small annoying barrier to maximal fun and maximal learning and growth during the session. But it's important not to push beyond your limits, because, when people did, we had a few people in beginner group that went off, and it wasn't catastrophic by any means, thank God, but that is always a possibility. And while it is flat and you go off into basically just some dirt or some grass, it still can cause considerable damage to cars. People that I personally knew from intermediate group had some bad luck there too, with mechanical failure and going off. And so it's always important to consider the risk to reward ratio there, even if, sometimes it's honestly just unforeseeable. In terms of the negative aspects of the day, I did have some difficulties with my brakes, and unfortunately with my wheels as well. So essentially what happened is that later in the session I ended up feeling a little bit of vibration. This will probably show up in the video, and at that time I was just assuming that vibration, given that it was caused when I was braking, was just pad deposit on my rotor, or maybe a warped rotor. But what would happen is this would kind of build up over the session. I would cool down my brakes. Still though, it wouldn't totally eliminate the vibration. And then when coming back into another session, initially after being cooled off, the brakes would not produce vibration. And later into that track session, there would be again some vibration. But over 3 different sessions, that built up and put its toll on my lug nuts, which unfortunately were not the right type of lug nuts. My wheels had spherical seats and the lug nuts were conical. And many times I've heard that mismatched lug nuts can cause problems, but I wasn't personally aware of this, and nor had I ever had any issues with them before. But under hard braking, cornering, and all that strain, And with the vibration of those brakes, the lug nuts started working themselves loose, leading me to lose a whole session. The fourth session of the day, I totally lost after basically leaving the pits, leaving the track, getting into the paddock, and discovering that my lug nuts were spinnable by hand. It wasn't a very good experience. It could have been much worse, but that's why it's always important to bring a few tools and plan ahead. I had brought a whole box of tools, jack stands, honestly, anything in my garage that I could think of that could be helpful. And while I might have overdone it a little bit, it was nice to have a wrench and the basics and the ability to do some repairs if needed. Another thing that I wish I wouldn't have done is blast music. You know, with my girlfriend and I just enjoying ourselves and talking, and with the music, and also with the rule that the windows have to be open, the audio got pretty shot. Despite that, though, I'm very happy with how things turn out, given the circumstances. And in the future, when we get back, I hope to be able to foresee some of these things and plan better for them. Now, another issue that I ran into in terms of filming and providing you guys this video was that one of my two GoPros went out after a certain point, just died on me. Meaning that the frontal angle there that you're seeing, that through windshield angle above the steering wheel, gets lost at a point in the video. What I plan on doing is providing you with some moments that may be interesting to you through the secondary camera angle, but just so you know, that angle is kind of blocked by the rear view mirror and my face. But still, I think there are some interesting moments to show you guys, so I'll provide a few little moments through that perspective. An experience that was especially humbling while at the track was getting to sit passenger with my buddy Sego driving, who participated in the time trial. He had the GR86, which is a very, very capable car, but more importantly, he himself was an amazing driver. And the reason this experience is so stuck in my head is because it quickly allowed me to see the differences both in driving style, but also the difference that experience and a properly set up car make in terms of time trials and results. For example, I personally wasn't going for time trials and didn't record what I could have done, unfortunately. But I knew even from the feeling that Sego was in a total different level or tier. And I personally remember just being whipped around, unable to control the posture of my head, gripping into seats, gripping into, the armrest, just trying to keep my body under control through the extreme G-forces and acceleration. So that was an interesting experience for me beyond being there collectively with my friends and girlfriend and brother. I hope to be able to provide more videos like this moving forward, and I will definitely be looking into recording some lap times, preparing a bit more from a filming perspective, and giving you guys more content like this. If you were at the event or have been at Thunderhill or have been at an event through Turnout 8 Racing, give me a comment. Let me know how that was for you. I personally thought it was an amazing event, a great organization, and I really much enjoyed Thunderhill because as a track, especially Thunderhill West, it is the closest thing to a back road, and that's honestly what I needed given mine and my brothers and all my car friends' experience with Touge. And up ahead, I'll have a few more videos through that secondary camera angle, unfortunately, but that have some interesting moments.
Warped rotors. We have put too much heat in the rotors and they have lost their shape. Is that a... Try not to use my brakes. I'm floating. Because it's not fast, you know. You can explode. Just drive like a road. They feel a little better. They feel a little better. They're warm, but... GTI number 2. Alright, from here now, I'm gonna go chill because I need to get these pads cooler. Whoa, it's bad. Cool, I gotta get them cooled down before we finish, and we're gonna go home shuttering. So from now on, I honestly have to go chill. Oh, we're done.